Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on The Jane Austen Society by Natalie Jenner. The Jane Austen Society by Natalie Jenner is set in post-World War II England, following a group of Jane Austen enthusiasts who seek to preserve the beloved author's ancestral estate by forming a society where they can rally together to form a plan to save the estate before it falls into the wrong hands. You guys, the only thing I can say about this book is that it was absolutely charming. I really liked this book. It's one of those books, you know, it's not like the most mind-blowing read, the most complicated read, you know, something that you're going to be thinking deeply about. You know, it's not like that type of book. It's really more, like I said, it's more just a sweet, charming, good time of a book, which is perfectly fine. You know, sometimes we need that. Just a feel-good book. It doesn't have to be something wild and crazy and something's going to blow your mind and change your life. You know, sometimes you just need a feel-good book. And this is definitely a very feel-good book. Very sweet, very charming. It has great moments where you're going to laugh, great moments where you're probably going to cry. This is the type of book that I can easily, you guys, very, very easily see this being turned into like a BBC period drama. Something that'll air on like Masterpiece Theater over here in America, you know? This is the type of thing that if the BBC doesn't turn this into some sort of like miniseries, there's something wrong. This just checks all of the boxes for that type of show, you know? Yeah, it's British, it's charming, it takes place in post-World War II England. It has to do with Jane Austen. It has broken, damaged people, characters in it. All the boxes are checked off. So yeah, BBC, turn this into a miniseries. And as I said, this is a book that just feels good. It's a good time book. And I think that's what this book does so well, because it feels good, and it feels very much kind of like a Jane Austen book in some ways. You know, when you read a Jane Austen book, it makes you feel good, you know? And that's kind of the big thing of this book, how this group of characters come together through their love and their passion for Jane Austen and her books, and what the books mean to these people, that these books make these people feel good and feel good about their lives and give them feelings of encouragement to keep living and doing things with their lives, you know? So I think this book kind of mimics that sort of feeling that you would get from reading a Jane Austen book and whatnot. This is a book, as I said, it takes place after World War II in England, and this is a book that is following characters that have endured something personal in regards to the war, whether or not they actually participated in the war, you know, if they were a soldier or not. All of these people, they faced some sort of trauma through the war. A lot of them, like, they might have lost somebody in the war, you know? And it's not just World War II either. You gotta think, World War I ended in 1918. And then just a very short while later, here comes World War II. Europe at this time period was devastated by these two world wars and experienced such trauma and loss, and there were whole generations wiped out through both of these wars. So that's, you gotta really keep that in mind as you're reading this book, you know, the personal loss and personal just demons that these characters are facing because of these wars and what they have done to them psychologically, as individuals and just as a nation in general. And it's here in post-World War II England, these characters, they're really struggling to survive and really struggling to cope, and kind of this question of what's the point of living? Why should I keep living? There's a great passage that I'm going to read from in this book. On this edition, this hardback edition, it's on page 137. One of the main characters, named Dr. Gray, he's a doctor in the village, he makes this comment at one point when he's talking to another character. He says it's kind of his inner dialogue that he's speaking. He realized that they were all wounded in some way, bookended by the two worst wars the world had ever seen. They were ironically the survivors, yet it was beyond him what they were all surviving for. And I just feel like that paragraph alone really perfectly summed up this book and the feelings that these characters are having. All of these characters are traumatized in some sort of fashion. They all have their own individual trauma, their own individual demon. They all don't, it's like they all don't really connect in some ways, you know, all the characters. They all have just something very specific. And each character is dealing with their trauma in a totally different way. Some of them are dealing with their trauma in a healthy way, others not so healthy. And then the same there, some characters have the will to survive, others don't. So what ultimately brings these various different characters, because there's quite a number of characters throughout this entire book, what ultimately brings these characters together is their shared love and passion for Jane Austen and her novels. The village that they live in, it's also the same village of Jane Austen's ancestral home, and they really want to preserve the estate, her home, the library that's in it, because there's like big companies coming in who want to take the land and destroy it and build on top of it, you know. So the book is also kind of dealing with that, as like big corporations, you know, taking over little small places and destroying just the natural beauty of a place, you know, the history of a place. You know, that's always terrible when the history of a place is destroyed for some big company to come up, like a Walmart or something, you know. So these characters all have this love and passion for Jane Austen and her books, and it's a thing of why Jane Austen specifically, you know, what keeps these characters coming back to her books, and it really is the thing of her books are very reliable. You know exactly what you're getting when you read a Jane Austen book. Even if the characters in her books are facing traumas and issues and things aren't going so well, the thing is, you know, by the time you end a Jane Austen book, there is going to be a happy ending. You know the main relationships, the main couples or whatever, you know they are going to get together and there's going to be a happy ending. All issues will be resolved. So that's the big thing. Her books are very reliable. You know exactly what you're getting. That is what these characters are depending on and relying on, and what they need in their lives. They need to know there is a happy ending. Because their own lives, there's the uncertainty of the future. Are they going to have a happy ending? Or is things going to get better? There is no reliability there. But these books that these people, these characters keep coming back to, they know there is something good there at the end of a dark tunnel. And I think what Natalie Jenner does really well with this novel, something that initially was kind of bugging me at first, but then I got over it. Something that initially was bugging me, you know, because this book is called The Jane Austen Society. I kept thinking to myself, I was sitting there kind of just tapping my foot for the longest time going, okay, when is this society going to happen? You know, Natalie Jenner, she takes her good sweet time really building up these characters, because like I said, there's quite a number of characters you got to get through, and she spends a really good lengthy amount of time introducing these characters, introducing their traumas, their past and history, introducing their relationships with other people in the village, who knows who's related to who, you know, who had relationships with who, you know. She spends a very lengthy amount of time building that up, which, you know, in hindsight, after I finished this book, I was like, okay, I appreciate that now. Because then once the actual Jane Austen Society forms, it's past like 100 pages before that idea is even a thought in these characters' head, you know. The society doesn't get going from page 1 of this book, which I was kind of, me personally, I was a little initially frustrated with, because I kind of just wanted to skip right to the good stuff, you know, with the forming of this society. And yeah, this book, I mean, it's not really so much about this society, you know? It's really the relationships between all of these characters at the end of the day, and what they all mean to each other, and how they all support each other. And the society kind of doesn't really matter ultimately. It's just this shared love of Jane Austen that brings them together and unites them. Because it's more kind of this idea of what the society kind of what it represents ultimately, what its purpose is, and yeah, giving these characters purpose in their life, giving their life meaning, and helping them to overcome just the brutality of the past 2 wars that have happened. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying, if you're kind of jumping into this book and you just want it all strictly about the society, you wanna see people having society meetings and having like a book club, you know, because I think that's what I initially thought this book was going to be. I thought it was going to be like characters having like a book club meeting every chapter and talking about the books, you know. I think that's kind of what I had in my head. This is not what this book is. It has nothing to do with these characters having like a book club meeting. There are lengthy passages where the characters will be talking about a particular character or a particular scene from a Jane Austen book, but yeah, it's never done in like a manner that they're all kind of just sitting around like book club style, you know. Once again, it's really just about these characters and their traumas, what they're trying to overcome, their relationships with one another. So yeah, if that's not going to work for you, if you're just here for more of the society aspect of it, if that makes sense, you might be sorely disappointed. So yeah, overall, I did really like this book. It was just a really fun time, just quaint, charming. Once again, needs to be made into a BBC miniseries of some sort. A great cast of characters. And more than anything, kind of just like the thematic messages kind of going on in this book, you know, having a lot to deal with life and death and post-World War I and II Britain and whatnot, and characters really having to face their demons and come together, and through this love of Jane Austen and whatnot, and what Jane Austen means to them and what her books mean to them, the characters in her books that they relate to the most and who they admire and who they want to be more like and whatnot. And yeah, just these characters really, kind of this whole thing of the will to live, you know. I think this book, that's what's really uplifting and joyful about this book, is just if you're depressed, you know, if you're facing hard times and you're struggling and you're depressed and whatnot, you know, there's always something better coming at the end of the day, you know. You just got to reach out for it and whatnot, however you can, and to the people that you can. So yeah, that's part of this book that was really just great, you know, this whole idea of the will to live, you know, to outrun the things that are bothering you. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think this is the type of book Jane Austen herself would greatly appreciate. So you guys, that is it for my book review on the Jane Austen Society by Natalie Jenner. In the comments below, have you guys read this book? Do you plan on reading it? If you did read it, did you like it or did you hate it? That's okay. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.